As Operation Sindhoor grabs headlines and global tensions escalate, India is emerging as a force to reckon with. The country's defense narrative is being rewritten, not just on the battlefield, but also in boardrooms and budget sheets. In this Point Break episode, we bring together a panel of three powerhouses. Colonel Sarjeet Yadav, defense veteran and venture partner at MountTech, Brijesh Damodaran, managing partner at BellWether Associates and Auxano Capital, and Dr. Anantha Krishnan M, investigative journalist, aerospace and defense, and the editor of Tarmak Media House, to break down what the world's watching closely, how India is responding economically and strategically. From the export potential of systems like BrahMos and Akash to the massive push for domestic procurement and the evolving VC interest in defense tech startups, we dive into what's working, what's broken, and what's next. We also unpack why India's startups are still stuck in drone mode, the real need for patient capital, and whether self-reliance can truly coexist with global defense partnerships. This isn't just about war games, it's about the new war economy and India's place in it. Let's break it down. I would like to start with Colonel Sarjeet Yadav. So the way things have unfolded in the last few days, what immediate and long-term impact do you foresee on India's economic outlook, particularly in sectors like defense, tech, and foreign investment?
I think the last 1 week of the events, what unfolded and all of us are aware of, we made certain statements very clearly. And these statements are that we are a defense and tech powerhouse. Just to bring the context, this is the first time since World War II when two capable nuclear powers were fighting each other. And a lot of equipment which was produced and claimed as high-tech, however, they were not battle-tested. Just to give a reference to two other wars which recently took place, Israel and Palestine, or Hamas, and Ukraine and Russia. The opponents were not nuclear states, and their powers were not matchable. So Russia, like particularly most of the times, can carry out strikes at its will, and so can Israel. So their equipments are not tested in the military or combat situations. This is what happened. So this time, what we could do, that our own investments into the defense equipments, what we had done, they were proven. So India, as you're aware, as a defense country, we are looking at defense-focused country now. We are looking at growing our exports to 50,000 crores per year by 2030. And last year, in fact, we crossed our targets of 20,000 crores for the financial year. So in terms of the economic impact, especially from defense, I would say there are two folds. One is the domestic consumption, where I see that the government now getting more focused on the kind of technologies and platforms where we need to invest and build capabilities and capacities. We know that, we know and understand that we cannot rely on the foreign technologies unless they are absorbed within India. And second, I think once we have established the combat readiness of our platforms, we would see a lot of countries, especially Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia, taking more and more interest into our equipment. Some of the important exports have taken place to Armenia, Middle East, Thailand, and Vietnam. There were a lot of other queries. And now I think these countries do not need to think anymore. They know what they need to buy. And how India competes in this market is, Indian equipment is rugged, now battle-proven, and it is much more cost-effective than any of the other countries. And India is also a proven friend where it stands by its partners during the difficult times. So in case a country has a kind of concern that maybe the equipment is provided during peace but may not be supported during wars, those kind of concerns are not with a country like India. In terms of tech, I think again we established most of this defense tech comes from the uh, techs which are dual use or multi-use cases. So we have proven that we are not only good in software, we are very good in AI, which was proven during the air defense battle and the kind of uh, Akash Tir in AD Control Center, which was showcased yesterday by the DGMO. We are a powerhouse over there, and we can build extremely rugged with the technology and reliable equipment. So these two sectors, I think, will see a growing consumption domestically from R&D demand and from the exports.
Yeah, Brijesh, do you want to add in here?
Yeah, I'll just quickly say that, I think in 25-26, nearly 75% of the defense budget is earmarked, for domestic procurement. That is close to around 1.5 trillion. That is a huge. Now with what has happened over the last few days, this can really trigger more, and we should not be surprised if something, more happens on the export side, because BrahMos or Akash, which has been developed ingeniously, have served purpose. So economic wise, why can't we start becoming, exporter too in some of these, which has proven their, capabilities and technologies? Maybe the doctor can add more since he's more deeper into it.
And Anantha, you've been given your deep reporting in A&D. I'm sure the last few weeks is nothing like that you've covered or seen. So, what is your take on this whole? What do you think is going to change after this? How are narratives going to change, or how is the whole economy in terms of indigenous equipments being sold to other countries going to shape after this?
I think I partially heard the question, but then of course I think this is in connection to what both of them spoke. Very interesting points there. So as I told you, money matters. I'm very poor, but then one thing I can just tell you is more than India selling its weapons outside, what is going to now happen is that Make in India, which I have been sort of critic in the sense. I saw it from very close quarters, interacted with the MSMEs and the private sector. Only the big fish used to get great access, but the real MSME touch is yet to really take place. There are companies who are contributing over the years. But what is going to happen from all this is that, this is now given confidence to the armed forces, the R&D wings, whether it is DRDO or the defense PSUs, the private sector, everybody part of supporting India's defense ecosystem. Now there is a huge confidence now because exam pass ho gaya, right? And with flying colors, with distinction. Now the planners, whether it is at the finance ministry or at Ministry of Defense or wherever you look at it, now they will increase the funding for startups. They will more private players will come in. The small fellows will get charged up, and this is a change I always have been telling to my friends in aerospace and defense that until and unless you handhold with intent, that's the key word, intent, the MSMEs and small private players supporting India's ecosystem. One case is Tejas. Look at the kind of investment come. Tejas is a delayed program. It took time. All that is fine, but it built a robust ecosystem that also helped other programs. So I think this Operation Sindhoor and what we saw is going to now make the thinkers in Delhi to definitely look at everything from a different window, because if you give opportunity, if you cut the delays, the processes, and if you believe in the strength of Desi capability, I think there lot can be achieved. Intent is the key, and I hope things will change.
And how do you think the equation will change with other countries? Like, say, We've also procured equipment from there. Are we going to become fully self-reliant, or that kind of collaboration will still continue?
Let's not forget that we are still importing a lot. Let's
Yeah.
not forget that fact. No, you see, we are still importing a lot, and there will be a lot of, I would say, campaigning to get more such systems. For example, S400 or anything. In that list, I don't actually cover much of foreign companies. I don't cover at all because there is a lot to cover in India. हमारा देश में इतना सारा है, बाप रे. One life is not enough to cover, tell the story, capture the story. So that is what Dr. Kalam always used to tell my guru, that he often told in private, he often told in speeches, all that is these kind of conflicts, success or impact, whatever, it will definitely put the pressure, or there'll be huge PR exercise now from different import firms. And like, fair enough, let's get the best systems in the world. But what I want to see is that while you get systems that are not available, while you get proven systems across the globe, equal amount, not namesake amount, equal amount of attention should be given. Research and development should be a big push. We must get the universities. Look at other countries. Look at other countries, even smaller countries. The kind of research input that comes out from universities. I did my PhD and I realized, how a fragile system exists in Indian universities, because everything is just for the sake of it. So if you do the right kind of thing, please look at the tweet today, or some post put out by former ISRO chairman, Dr. Somnath. Technology versus, he has put out very beautifully. I think, while we celebrate this, we must keep in mind that the story is not over. I think the gentleman would agree. There is a tendency in India to celebrate too much, because I think it is a reminder to all of us that we must definitely up the funding, up the money given to research and development. We must upgrade some systems, and also we must tell these defense PSUs not to put their apples in too many baskets. In classic cases, time to look at your strengths and definitely cut your weaknesses out.
So, Colonel Sarjeet, in terms of, looking at from an investment angle, how many of these startups are now getting more into defense tech? Like, if you look at it, how it was 5 years ago to now how it is, how much of it, like, people are really wanting to get into it, and how much of it has changed over, say, the last 2 weeks as well? I know it's too soon to probably give any data on that, but you must be having an idea of the sentiments, how it is now, and yeah. So, anything you can throw light on that?
I would say the entire defense industry in India was around DPSUs and some selected MSMEs till about a decade back. And then this defense procurement policies and opening of the private space, it started off. For the startup, the real thing which kicked it off was the IDEX challenges, which was by the Defense Innovation Organization, where they started throwing small little challenges of technology, which was open to the startups to bring on those solutions. And these challenges were by the armed forces, the CAPFs, and the DPSUs. Today, more than 500 startups have won these challenges, and the funding initially was 1.5 CR for the normal challenge, and then later on increased to 10 CR for the prime challenge. So now they come up with the Aditi challenge for the larger technological challenge, which is 25 CR. I think the entire ecosystem was driven from the IDEX challenges. However, the few things I want to bring out here is that we need to do much more than what is happening right now, because the startups which are led by these accelerators and incubators in universities, the students are more focused towards the low-hanging fruits. So that's why we'll see that it is focused towards like drones, and even in drones they are more like quadcopters or the smaller ones. or such similar technologies. What we need in really is the cutting edge technology. In case you see the pure defense technological needs, the number of startups are limited. It is more biased towards two sectors, space, obviously because the understanding in the commercial segment is better, significant commercial use. And from VC perspective, it's very lucrative. And second is, like I told you, drones. Other areas, there's a limited growth of the startups. Each sub segment or equipment or technology having just a couple of them fighting over those things. But yes, I do see that it is improving over years. And in the current with the current Operation Sindhoor, I think again, when the Make in India products have done very well, it has brought in a lot of enthusiasm among the startups. Although sadly, I would say that again, most of these again are towards drone buyers because they see a lot of drones operating and they want to go over there. And I keep telling them, instead of drones, probably you should start thinking about anti-drone now, something cutting edge, something more technologically advanced solutions. But yes, I think this is what is being the government's focus, and supported by the funds, awareness in the industry. This is something which is on its path, and I would say that it's very unique system which is developing, and in next 5 to 10 years we'll see that India being one of the unique countries where the DPSUs, the MSMEs, and the startups in defense, all three of them will thrive. This is my personal opinion.
Yeah, and Brijesh, from your end, like how do you think this is going to change in the VC system? And also, if you could highlight on, so like you said, like Colonel Sarjeet was saying, that now people will be more interested in it, but how feasible is it for them to kind of operate seamlessly? Like in terms of, say, would you have government procurement strategies in place? Would there be challenges for that? Is there something that you could highlight?
Well, we have, today much more startups, maybe anywhere, upwards of 500,000 startups working on, say, UAVs, like what Colonel said, but also on, let's say, body or armor is something which one want to, cyber security, which would come in big time, artificial intelligence for surveillance. All these things will have more and more, and our talent is there who can, do this and much more. See, what we today saw in action the other day, that it took a lot of time. So, the money required for investments in R&D and patience is big time. So that is where talent along with capital is required. And if you're talking to VCs or PEs, you need patient capital. So that is where there could be a possibility of a public-private partnership or large institutions, coming into this space. And you already find one. There are a few large institutions also in place. On the other side, you also have, there is a specific fund, defense-focused startup called Kavachh, which actually, gives capital to entrepreneurs who want to, do in this space. So that is where, you want to, let's say if you're talking about an ROI and which can be realizable at, as the stock market return, this is not the place to win. But this is where patient capital along with, directed approach would definitely come into play. So defense, another day when things were happening out there, you found some of the drone stocks actually going up big time, the defense stocks going up big time. But that is part of it. You need to, invest a lot of time and capital, and allocation of capital need to be there. You cannot get overnight things there. You talk about, I consider this also with space tech, right? Because that also comes into play big time when you're, getting into these kind of things. So with the talent we have, and a lot of patient capital and the government support to be there in place. So yeah, you have challenges when procurement comes in place. You have challenges when the modalities worked out, but these have to be bridged. And how it can bridge is and how and when to bridge is key. We need to think more openly. We need to trust the people or the entrepreneurs to whom the capital is allocated. And with that, nothing stops us, from doing it. Even today, there are a lot of collaboration happens. So we don't have still our own fighter jet. The engines which runs the BrahMos is comes in from the from one of the large US multinationals. So those are areas where we could become self-sufficient. Even Tejas has engines not completely indigenized, but some part of the engines and some part of the machinery comes in from outside. So can we do that and move forward? Enough and more will happen. That's our take.
And Anantha, you have been, I mean, you probably know the ground reality. So we have a lot of these ambitions now, a lot of startups want to come up in it. But can you tell me from your end how feasible or how seamless it has been for these startups to come up till now? And do you see that it's going to change or it's going to get better?
I have been very, very, say, very critical about the way things have been handled so far. Because what happens is that every story has two sides, right? Every story. And quite often, the kind of narrative that is put out, make in India, Dhundam, it is not the fact. Because I have lots of CEOs of private companies, many of whom were working in defense before. And there are lots. All of them shared to me in private one story that is lot more needs to be done. It is just not enough what is being done now because the numbers are very few. What the kind of orders they get, wo milne ke liye, the kind of process, the labyrinthine lanes of the system hierarchy, and then the payment. So I think, and for example, classic example is a lot of things are done tokenism. So tokenism cannot build in a robo system. See, the gentleman that said about Tejas engine, yes, remember, we are, at the mercy of the US. The 40 planes, IOC version and FOC version are already there. They run on G404. And now the program is delayed because GE lines were down. They came up. Now the new version of LCA, means Tejas Mark 1A, is yet to come out. There is delay. The Air Force squadrons are down. So what are we talking about? We are talking about how can we aid our armed forces in a better way. Now, I think at the highest level, you have to take a relook at the India's defense spending, where research and development stands, underlining, because that's my area of focus. Where academy is is the real hand-holding happening. DRDO, with so many labs, are they doing enough to get the private players in? Are they opening up? So many things. So I think startup story so far on a scale of 10, I would give 2.5 to 3 marks. And a lot of people are focusing on drones. Drones alone cannot win as wars. We need systems. We need sensitive systems. We need systems that are smart. And another area I want to just focus here is that we are lagging way behind in AI. We are masters in. We are, lot needs to be done. I have somebody who worked at the air headquarters at the very, very highest level. He's retired. He is now part of a private company. I've been there. So I think let's not celebrate too much about these 3-4 days of success. Yes, it is a matter of great pride. And let's sit and analyze things. And let's also see, there is one thing now. DRDO will be in a much more commanding position now because of most of the systems what they develop have proved in this conflict. Lot of startups, small companies, whatever products they have given, they all performed well. Everybody talks about Scalp missile or that missile or S-400, all that. Thankfully, in the last couple of days, people talk about Akash. There is one system in yesterday's DGMO's press conference. They put out a slide, something which I followed from very keenly, and the D4 system. The D4 system is such an amazing system. It stands for drone detect, deter, and destroy. And which is being used in some limited numbers. It played a huge role in bringing down several invading drones, and it's a killer, communication jamming system, soft skill developed by 4DRDO labs and many small-time companies. So there will be now a rejuvenated startup. There will be definitely a more confident DRDO. And there will be also a more confident armed forces. So Confidence level now 10 out of 10. What do you do with this? That is a question. Because are we only going to keep on talking about celebrating we did it, the Bharat Mata ki jai kind of thing? No. वो भी चाहिए, लेकिन time to move on and get the next level. Remember, the enemy also will be equally prepared now. At least there will be some kind of information they would have got, isn't it? Because I had tweeted a lot of data gone and there's a lot of data got. So that's the thing.
And Colonel Sari, just to end this, so like you spoke about how we need to go beyond, say, drones or space tech. How can we enable that? And what do you think would be the right measure, say from the government angle or from, say, the VC circle to kind of, bring across this growth?
Okay, I think this is a very interesting question, and I'll bring the perspective since I was a user. I was procuring at one point of time, and now I'm with the industry as well as from the investment side. So let me try to show the entire thing. So, let's see what the government needs to do. I think the government needs to do on 2 or 3 folds. One is that they need to have the R&D budget, good R&D budget. They need to support the startups in terms of funding, which they're doing, but I think it is inadequate since most of these technologies, they're high capex industries. And thirdly, I think what Dr. Anantha also brought out, that the orders need to come in time. This is not like government agency. The startup is burning every month. There's the OPEX. So if the orders are delayed, the startup will continue to burn and bleed. The orders need to come in time. These are 3 things which they can do. On the policy side, I think they're already done. And policy review is due this year against the procurement. And I'm sure most of the points from the industry have been included, will be included during this revision. From the user side, I think it is last since 4 or 5 years that we have seen that user is coming out to give out its requirement very specifically. They interact with the industry, they interact with the startups. Startups who apply for the challenges or any of these technologies they have various contacts where they can, in the public domain, where they can approach the user and show the technology. They're coming out, but I think more and more interaction from the user side is required so that the startups who are working in this domain, they understand very clearly that what are the technical specifications, what are the use cases, in what kind of scenarios the product is likely to operate. From the startup side, something what Dr. Anantha said, I partially agree with him. To the startups, while I said the government need to support in terms of the orders and the funding, my observation is that the startups, most of the time, they just want to do the bare minimum and expect an order. They need to understand that they need to produce military hardened product with specifications of the user and which can operate in that environment. Most of them are, they just read those specifications on paper, produce something around it, because specifications cannot be comprehensive enough to give each and every aspect of a particular product. Otherwise, it'll run into like volumes and volumes. So the startup needs to understand what exactly is required from them. And most of these cases where the procurement has not taken place or has been delayed, it is because the product has not come up to the standard, what is required. And when the startups realize that there's too much which needs to be done, so many of them actually drop out. The few of them who are resilient enough to continue doing that, and they end up getting these orders. And I think Brijesh, you also mentioned, it is a patient capital. As in MountTech Growth Fund Kavachh, we have a patient capital. Our exit strategy is 6 years and beyond, and even more in certain cases, because this is not a deep tech AI or SaaS or fintech kind of industry where I want my returns in 3 years. The technological and financial milestones where a VC can get an exit will possibly come after 5-6 years and later on. This is again what needs to be understood by the startups, the government, and the user. And because it has its own advantages as well. Once this product or technology gets inducted, I think it can be a revenue generator for years and years. The products and technologies do not change so easily into the defense ecosystem. So I think this is few of the things which can be done. And last, I will say, like people like you and us who are there to have a common knowledge and disseminate to people that what needs to be done, what we are doing right now here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarjeet. Any closing remarks, Brijesh?
Definitely allowed to add, let's talk about, some data and stats. So when in 1971, the GDP growth fell from 5.2 to 1.6%, which may not be the case this time. Today, we are in a different trajectory and different growth. So that is one point which I have to take. So what impacts when these things happen? Talking about, the stock markets, everyone. We're talking about foreign investments. We talk about how currency comes into play. We're talking about how trade and supply, government spending, GDP growth, all of this, how this, comes into play. And I like to, share what, Colonel said. He many times, today, being a startup is like being pretty fancy, but at the same time, there is a lot of hard work which is required. And that's where exactly when ex-defense professionals also, come and get into the space, that is where it can become more engaging, and that is where even more patient capital will come into play, because then that it is not a rookie to whom we are actually investing in. We also have seasoned professionals alongside it. So from that perspective, across all dots, things should happen, things should move. As doctor said, there is a laboring out there, and yes, those also needs to be addressed proactively by people in power, so that across the world, the ecosystem, the juggernaut can move on, if it starts and when it starts. So that's how we look at it. Pretty optimistic about how things will be, and data and numbers and coming together of all of us. The media also has a role to play. Ex-defense professionals also have a role to play. The capitalists also have a role to play. Keeping all of us on the ground, defense journalists also have a role to play. So everybody has a role to play, and let's make it together. That's my take.
All right, sure. Yes, Anantha.
Sorry, I'll just quickly wrap it up. Great thoughts by
Sure.
gentlemen there. The thing is, as I was just listening, I just got a one message from a top air marshal who was part of the thing. He's saying that I think too much of celebration, and we are still in the conflict zone, right? It's just a couple of days. It's not that it's over. There are a lot of things that
Yes, sir.
doesn't come out. So he's telling that being part of the, how do I put it? I don't want to share too many things. So yeah, what he's telling is that a lot of things will come out soon. The data, isn't it? And that will
Okay.
throw open a lot of challenges, because right now we're only talking about the good things, but there will be a lot of things that will come out. So the military minds, industry experts, everybody will now have to assess the key areas that need to focus. In terms of startups, is everybody doing the same thing? So I think key areas, and definitely there'll be a major push from the armed forces to from the industry in India to now focus on big things. Chota mota sab chhod ke na. And for that, how the government will aid, support, all this will come into. I think it's good thing that has happened, because it has united all the forces. Otherwise, it has definitely united the forces, and that is the key takeaway from this conflict, I would see, because it has united a lot of people. It has also built in trust among our desi products, which wasn't the case. And so the handshakes will get more warmer, the communications will become more friendly, and I think that is what that's going to happen from Operation Sindhoor.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you, Colonel Sarjeet. Thank you, Dr. Anantha, and thank you, Brijesh, for being here.
If there's one clear takeaway from today's conversation, it's this. India's defense sector isn't just responding to the moment, it's redefining it. What was once seen as a slow-moving, state-dominated ecosystem is now emerging as a collaborative, high-potential force powered by indigenous innovation, resilient supply chains, and a renewed confidence in Make in India. From the battlefield to the boardroom, the message is clear. Intent, investment, and inclusion are no longer optional. They are essential. And if nurtured right, the fusion of startups, MSMEs, DPSUs, and global interests can make India not just self-reliant, but globally competitive in defense tech. The real war now is against complacency. The question is, will we seize this momentum or celebrate too early? Time and our policy decisions will tell. That's all for today's episode of Point Break. I'll be back soon with more insights from the experts shaping India's future. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and think AI, think AIM.